This video is going to be less focused on humor and more on actually thoroughly explaining the time travel events of the ending of Rascal Does Not Dream of a Dreaming Girl. So if you're in the headspace for more lighthearted content, please be sure to check out my other videos and to subscribe for new ones coming out. The movie Rascal Does Not Dream of a Dreaming Girl follows the events of Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, yet the title this time actually relates to the content of the movie. Rascal Does Not Dream of a Dreaming Girl adapts the events of the 6th and 7th volumes of the light novel series, and this time focuses on Sakuta and Shoko's relationship, including themes of time travel, self-sacrifice, and loss. Spoilers ahead if you somehow have not realized that the point of this video is to literally in-depth explain the ending of the movie in detail as to clue you in to some parts that you may not have picked up on. Anyway, we'll pick up the story after Sakuta has gone back in time, and after all of the girls help Sakuta get back to Mai, starting with older Shoko teaching him how to time travel, Futaba writing theories on the blackboard about his time travel position, Tomoe recognizing and confirming his existence while he's in his suit, Nodoka locating Mai, and Mai promising to wait for him. Afterwards, we see the time traveler Sakuta say his last goodbye to the last older Shoko, who disappears after the bunny suit Sakuta pushes himself out of the car's way, as Shoko is due to die if neither Mai or Sakuta dies and donates their heart. Now, this is where things might get confusing if they haven't already. The day after the car accident, Sakuta realizes that the reality he is currently living in is not the present, but is instead the future of the 4th grade Shoko. He knows this because 4th grade Shoko is the one interacting with the future goals list, meaning that the present isn't even with the 7th grade Shoko but 3 years past. Furthermore, because Tomoe mentions to him that she dreamed that Mai was in a car accident, Sakuta hypothesizes it may be possible to send his memories to the past, or what is the actual present, to save 4th grade Shoko, although this means he runs the high risk of giving up everything that has happened since he met Shoko on the beach, including applying to Minagara High, meeting Mai, Kunimi, and Futaba. Yet I will remind you that through plot armor, because Sakuta and Mai later promise they'll meet up and fall in love with each other again, that's not how it ended either way.
Sakutaがそうしたいならいいよ。過去を変えてもいい。今までのこと全部なかったことになってもいい。
マイさん。
あの日約束したでしょ。2人で幸せになろうって。その約束を果たすために少し遠回りするだけよ。
少しね。
全部忘れてもう一度最初からやり直すだけ。
そうですね。たったそれだけです。
それからもう一度サクタと出会って、もう一度サクタと恋をして、もう一度サクタに告白されるの。
必ずマイさんを見つけるから。
そしたら2人で幸せになるわよ。
約束します。
Now back to the story. Sakuta then goes with Mai to the ICU where Shoko's mother is, while her daughter's physical health has begun to rapidly decline. Remember that the Sakuta that visits Child Shoko is after he and his sacrificial time traveler selves, as well as the last of the older Shokos, have merged. Now, with her new memories, Shoko reveals to Sakuta that she dreamed of all the things her college-aged older self experienced with Sakuta, including their date, and Sakuta attempts to tell her that he believes there is a chance that by going back in time, he may be able to find a way to cure her illness early in the present when she's in 4th grade. However, Shoko understands that the chances are slim and honors Sakuta's valiant effort, just like how she has been encouraging him since they met at the beach in the beginning of the movie.
救われたのは私の方なんだよ、サクタくん。サクタくんは言われて嬉しい言葉は何ですか？私はありがとう、頑張ったね、大好きが3大好きな言葉です。サクタくんは頑張ったね。
Contrasting with how Sakuta praised 7th grade Shoko's efforts before she collapsed to the ICU. In Sakuta's place, Shoko promises to take responsibility for Sakuta's pain and create a reality where he never meets her and thus he doesn't have to suffer with her death. Shoko falls unconscious after she promises to make him happy. Sokka and Mai go back to Shoko's previous room to cross off Shoko's homework, which now included the lesson Sakuta taught Shoko to say, "Thank you, you did your best, and I love you," instead of "I'm sorry." She also wrote about how she wants to be a kind person. Not to mention, Sakuta informs Mai, who is not in the room with Shoko and Sakuta in the ICU, that Shoko had gained her older self's memories and had finally understood what was happening. Once Sakuta falls asleep in the hospital hallway, we see a scene where his memories seem to be appearing from him, which is of course the show telling us his memories are being sent out of this timeline to the next one. Everything after this point is now in the new timeline, which I will now explain. We first see Shoko back in 4th grade finishing the homework that asks what she plans for when she grows up. This scene is crucial because by finishing her list, she no longer has to be anxious about her future, and thus her adolescent syndrome, which created her college-age version, never manifests. However, this comes with yet another trade-off. By finishing her homework, Shoko has committed to never letting her and Sakuta meet, and thus their memories are surrendered. Afterwards, we see new timeline Sakuta wake up in his bed, and we see the events of the series have indeed happened again against all odds, which we can confirm because Mai jokes that the reason she and Sakuta met was because of the adolescent syndrome. After the two visit a shrine, Sakuta sees a now healthy 7th grade Shoko at Shichigahara Beach, the same place he first met her.
知ってますか？人の目の高さから見える水平線までの距離は約 4km なんですよ。私は牧之原翔子です。
He initially doesn't even recognize her, but then he realizes that the girl from his dreams was the girl that was now standing in front of him. He yells out, "Makinohara-san!" To which the surprised Shoko cheerfully replies, Roll credits. Okay, now let's run through some of the more common confusions this movie has. How is new timeline Shoko alive? During Mai and Sakuta's calm trip to the beach in the new timeline, we get a scene where Mai and Sakuta stumble upon a movie poster, where Mai states her gratitude for the chance to star in a movie about a girl who is waiting for a heart donor, saying that she doesn't know why, but she just felt like she had to do the role. To which Sakuta says that he and the audience were bawling their eyes out when watching the movie. This leads us to believe that there were some people who saw the movie who were motivated enough to sign up as organ donors, and thus someone who saw the movie must have died within the time frame that the movie aired in Christmas Eve, allowing Shoko to get the transplant she needed. How did Sakuta and Shoko remember each other at the end of the movie? Well, for Sakuta, we know his memories did reach his new timeline self, as Mai mentions in the same scene that they see her movie poster, how Sakuta had dreams of dates he had with another girl in Shichigahara, this girl of course being Shoko. These dreams he had were the memories he sent out as he slept in the hospital waiting room after Shoko fell unconscious in the ICU, and after they marked off her future goals list in the previous room. As for Shoko, to summarize, her memories were also sent out when she fell unconscious in the ICU right before Sakuta does in the hospital hallway, as she used them to finish up her homework back in 4th grade. But to be more precise, the memory she had of Sakuta did come from her older self from earlier in the movie before Sakuta time travels. Mai sacrificed herself to save Sakuta and died in his place. Sakuta is then led to believe both Mai and Shoko are dead because he didn't know Mai is an organ donor, meaning Shoko wouldn't even get her heart for an operation. However, it is later revealed that Mai was an organ donor, highly probable that she picked one up after Sakuta picked one up in the hospital. Of course, this means future Shoko still exists. However, this one is the one that instead received Mai's heart. However, Sakuta decides he wants to go back in time to save Mai, and Shoko accepts this and helps him to time travel. Stuff happens, Shoko disappears when Sakuta pushes himself past a car, and child Shoko gets her future memories. Child Shoko then sends those memories back to her 4th grade self when she goes unconscious and finishes her homework to save Sakuta and Mai. What happened during the first car accident scene, especially what did Sakuta realize? Early in the movie, during Sakuta and Shoko's date, Shoko mentions how she wants to see the Enoshima illumination at 6 PM on Christmas Eve. However, by the time they get to the car crash scene, Sakuta had grabbed an organ donor card and went out to get hit by a car on Christmas Eve to save the girl who saved him all that time ago. However, older Shoko knew this would happen and was against Sakuta dying, which is why early in the movie she also gave the same instructions as Mai to meet for Enoshima illumination before Mai did. How does this make any sense? Well, Because not too long after the first date ended early in the movie, Mai tells Sakuta about her own interest in the illumination. This causes Sakuta to be briefly happy until he realizes Enoshima would also be where Shoko is waiting, and thus he told Mai after hearing this that he would rather go to the aquarium so that Mai wouldn't see Shoko waiting for Sakuta at the Enoshima illumination. Now back to the car crash. When Sakuta wonders to himself if the next light would be the one where he gets hit by a car, he realizes that Shoko tried to trick him into going away from the car crash, which we know worked because, as I previously mentioned, Sakuta almost ended up going to the aquarium with Mai. This leads to Sakuta running towards the Enoshima lights, knowing that was where the car crash was actually going to happen, and is nearly hit by a car where Shoko was. I say nearly because this is when Mai sacrifices herself. Shoko is of course from the future and was waiting there because she knew that was where the car crash would be. As for how Mai knew, later in the movie, after Sakuta successfully time travels and meets Mai at her filming set while in his bunny suit, we learn how and why Mai was prepared to sacrifice herself for Sakuta, as she also knew that Sakuta wouldn't be able to accept Shoko's death and would decide to get hit by the car.
ないとサクタとデートの約束をしてるのよ。
待ってマイさん、
話して。
大丈夫だから。
大丈夫じゃないわよ。私が事故に遭うなんて知ったらサクタはなおさら自分を犠牲にしようとするに決まってるじゃない。やっぱり自分が事故に遭うべきだって絶対に思う。翔子ちゃんの未来を奪って自分だけ生きていこうなんて考えられるはずないのよ。私が行かないとサクタは死んじゃうのよ。
We know Sakuta intended to die in the first car crash scene there because he smiled when older Shoko yelled out his name. How was Shoko able to write the phrases "Thank you, you did your best, and I love you," as well as her sentiment to be a kind person one day on her homework the day she was put in the ICU? Aren't those things she said as an adult on the beach with Sakuta when they first met, which she used to cheer him up? Well, first of all, when Sakuta finds 7th grade Shoko in the hospital for the first time, that's when he tells her it would be better to tell her parents "I love you" and "thanks," rather than "I'm sorry," because she feels like she's a burden to them. This is interesting because those two phrases are used on her homework, as well as an extra she takes from the time that Sakuta says,
Makinoharaさんはよく頑張った。すんげえ頑張ったんだ。
サクタさん、私だって本当は病気になんてなりたくなかった。なんで私なんですか。私だって生きたいんです。生きて私は。
牧野原さんは今日まで毎日誰よりも頑張ってきた。だからもう一人で頑張らなくていいんだ。明日も来るよ。明後日も来る。約束するよ。
本当ですか。
牧野原さん。牧野原さん。
leading to her ICU transfer. This means that while yes, technically the words were first introduced to Sakuta by Shoko when he was dealing with the doctors and his parents not believing him when he said Kaede's injuries were from cyberbullying and puberty syndrome, as well as his chest wounds just suddenly appearing being the same case, in reality, the older Shoko was only able to tell Sakuta those phrases before he got to meet 7th grade Shoko because she's from the future. What actually happened, which was confirmed when during their date Shoko says that Sakuta was one that taught her this, was that Sakuta was the one who instilled those sentiments within 7th grade Shoko when she was in the hospital, and she added the final line, quoting how she wants to be a kind person in the future, after she gained memories from her older college self saying that to Sakuta on the beach during their last encounter, or at least for the next 2 years when he applies to Minigara High, which is when she finally realized what she wanted her life to mean. Note, Sakuta initially believes that Shoko's way of life to be new, and he asks if it's okay to live like her, which is what then encourages him to become the way he is, which seems to be a paradox, but you have to remember that the older Shoko is just what 4th grade Shoko believes a possible future could be, which is the same for Sakuta. So it is as if the future college-age Shoko existed before the 7th grade version in this timeline, which is why it makes sense that Sakuta could become a good person for 7th grade Shoko even before he tells her his kind words. Further notes, we know that Sakuta was moved by Shoko's words because after he's discharged from the hospital, he bought a notebook and pen for his sister and shared that kindness forward. So overall, The reason Shoko's homework is finished is because she used the memory she gained from her older self to finally decide what she wanted to write on her homework when she goes back in time to 4th grade. And we know this because Mai says Shoko's mother confirmed Shoko did it suddenly the day before she fell unconscious. And that's about everything that initially confused me and might have confused others. If you're still confused about anything, please try checking out the links I provided below in the description, which all shed their own light on the story, or post a comment down below. Either way, thank you so much for watching and subscribe for next time.
あなたの見てる少